You could be trapped in a prison of your own making that's keeping you broke, sick, and unhappy. Let's talk about that today on Cross-Examined. This prison you may be trapped in is unforgiveness. You know, it's called a lot of things. I hold a grudge, or I'm angry at so-and-so because they did this or that, or it's called just being angry. If you're having road rage, well, you're experiencing a moment of unforgiveness. So let's understand this prison. First thing you got to realize about unforgiveness is that it occupies precious energy and attention in our lives. It takes up an enormous amount of energy to hold a grudge and to hold unforgiveness towards somebody for that long. Another thing that unforgiveness does is it creates beliefs in our lives. It actually takes moments from our life, from our past, and it creates patterns for our future. Patterns that could well ruin relationships. Maybe it's patterns that could make us believe unworthy thoughts about ourselves, that we're not worthy to actually achieve anything in our life because of what's happened in the past. And also what unforgiveness does is it brings things from the past into the now, and it succeeds at making you miserable for them immediately. In fact, what happens with unforgiveness is we punish ourselves in the moment for things that others may have done to us in the past. And along with all of those bad feelings come all of the baggage that unforgiveness holds. And it's just not just feelings from the past. It's not just things from the past. In fact, unforgiveness can set up belief patterns that cause us to believe something that may happen in the future that can make us feel sick, worried, and horrible about our life right now. Well, how do we get out of this prison? How do we free ourselves and liberate ourselves from this prison of unforgiveness? Well, forgiving. Forgiving is the key. A lot of us have heard preachers say, forgive and forget. It's godly to forgive and forget. Well, there are a few realizations that you should know about forgiveness. Number one, you can forgive. A lot of people I've counseled over the years have said things like, oh, Doc, I can never forgive so-and-so for what they did. It was horrible. I can never forgive them. In fact, they'll say, to forgive them means that I condone what they've done. But guess what? That's not true. I'll challenge you that that's not true. In fact, you've forgiven people in the past for things. And you've forgiven some pretty big things. Think back through your past. Maybe you have forgiven someone for spilling a cup of coffee on your nice pants. Why? Because you weren't attached to the fact that, you know, my pants weren't that big a deal. You had a value for that person greater, or a value for your own peace of mind greater than being upset about those pants. You've forgiven in the past, so you can do it now. Another thing to remember is that you have also been the perpetrator that others need to forgive. That's right. You've been both the perpetrator and the victim in life. Another thing to remember is that the word forgive and forgiven in sacred scripture, in Greek and Hebrew scripture, is actually the same word. Let me explain what I mean. When you see a scripture such as forgive and you will be forgiven, those two words are actually the same word. So to forgive means to receive into our lives forgiveness. You can't forgive without getting forgiven in the process. Now, if you'll remember, there is this interesting little story in the Bible where Peter goes to Jesus and he says, Master, how many times should I forgive my brother when he offends me? 7 times? And Jesus said, where did you hear 7 times? I tell you, 7 times 70. Well, obviously, you're not going to tick mark off 490 times if someone forgives you, just so you can be within the limits of what Jesus said. That's not what was meant. What was meant by that was that forgiveness should be a perpetual state in your life. It should be something that you do automatically to keep yourself out of prison. And remember that forgiving, it's for you, not them. So, here's your abundance awakening assignment. Number 1, recognize your prison. Where are you being held back in your life? Are you being held back in the area of finances? Are you sick? Are you destitute? Are you broke? Do you have no peace of mind? If that's true, then you're in prison and it could be forgiveness. Now, second thing you need to do is take roll of the inmates. Now, what that means is look back through your past. Go ahead, dig back there, and find out who is it that I have anger, resentment toward, I hold a grudge toward, I have hatred toward them. Write those people's names down because those are the people in your prison. Also, understand that you are both the warden of that prison and an inmate. Truth be known, there are plenty of things you need to forgive yourself over. I held unforgiveness toward myself for years. And when I realized that I wasn't broken, that I didn't need to be fixed, that there wasn't something wrong with me, I was able to let go and forgive myself for letting myself down and letting others down. Now, the last thing you need to do is release the inmates. Well, first thing you do in that process is judge the inmates. Write down on a piece of paper who they are, what their charges are, and what those consequences are. Go ahead, be nasty, write it all down. Okay? Then write a pardon letter. Write out a forgiveness letter, telling them everything that's happened, how you feel, and that you totally and completely forgive them and release them. Now, don't mail the letter, okay? Because the last step of your Abundance Awakening assignment is to expunge the record. You're going to take those letters, that letter and the judgment, the pardon letter and the judgment paper, and you're going to go burn them. That's right, just go burn them. Find some place you can burn them. If you can't burn them, shred them. If you can't shred them, tear them into tiny little bitty pieces and toss them in the trash. But you'll expunge the record. And when you do this, what you'll find is that you have an amazing release of forgiveness in your life. A lot of law of attraction and success and wealth coaches will talk about a lot of things. Your visualization, what your intention is. But they seldom talk about your forgiveness. So release yourself today from the prison of unforgiveness by forgiving. And now may the God within you and me bless us both amazingly. Go to my website, abundanceawakening.com, for more free videos and to sign up to receive free teaching and instruction videos about how you can gain abundance through spiritual knowledge.